What's that? You're right in front of the camera. Oh, sorry. No, you're fine. I just want to let you know.
We put some up by Jason's, so now I can put the Kleenex. So Jason, before I send you one in.
So it says it's streaming. I don't see it. No, it's just my need to get to it. Okay, it's there, but it's not like in the home thing. So it's live now. I had to do a search for it. Did you want me to send you the link to the live? I'll send it via I didn't know if you wanted to put it up on the board page to link right to it.
Are we on your way? You can use the phone. Yeah, that's great.
So it's weird how it doesn't show up on our team.
Yeah. Why is it?
I'm not really sure. But it is streaming.
My husband. Security.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. First order of business, call to order and roll call.
Weedman,
Aye.
Braden,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
Miller, Strack,
Here.
Okay, so to establish a form, we're going to have a pledge of allegiance. Okay, next we have approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Miller, aye, Strack,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Mackey.
Aye.
Okay, so can you hand me the public comments sheet? Thank you. First off, thanks everybody for coming, parents, teachers, community members who have come out to tonight seeking information and wanting to share comments about the district negotiations with the Grays Lake Federation of Teachers and the Grays Lake PSRP unions. We have a public sign-in sheet, so if there is somebody that didn't get a chance to sign up, please let me know. We'll get your name on the list. But first, I'd like to also provide an update of the status of negotiations so everybody in the room has facts. The board strongly believes in, supports, and respects our excellent teaching, office, and support staff. We want to compensate, hold on. We want to compensate them as fairly and competitively for their work while operating within the financial means of the district. Many of the people sitting on this board were walking the line with you at your last strike. And the reason why we got on the board was because of the way the school board was then. So we have been supporting you since we got here. Our current contract with the teachers and the sports staff is scheduled to expire in June of 2021. That contract contained a provision to open it up for negotiations for wage and salary increases at the 2-year mark, and that's where we're at. The board's most recent proposal to the union would result in every teacher receiving a raise above the consumer price index. Specifically, teachers would receive either a 3% raise or a 3.2% raise, and the CPI was 1.9 last year. Depending on their length of time with the district, and every support member would receive a 3.2% increase during each of the remaining 2 years of the contract. The Grades Lake Federation of Teachers and the PSRP are currently seeking raises of 4.1 and 4.6 for the teachers, depending on the length of their time in the district. And the PSRP is at 4.6 for their support staff. The difference between the Board of Education proposals and the union's proposals is more than $950,000. The board takes very seriously its fiscal responsibility to the district, the community, and must consider several factors during the negotiations. As a district, our revenue, which is used for operations, including salaries, comes majority from the tax base, the property taxes. 70 some odd plus % of our operation funds come from the tax base, the property taxes. Every year, we increase the levy at maximum rate allowed by law, which is based on the consumer price consumer price index and any new construction that's been put in the district. It's not a lot of new construction coming in town. This year's maximum increase to the tax levy was based on 1.9%. That was the max we could raise it plus new construction. We do that every year, and every year we also have another set of people in town that come in October and November and complain that we're raising their taxes and they're not going to be able to afford their homes. So we have two factions fighting against each other just in the community. Providing teachers and support staff with a raise of 1.9% we're allowed to levy means that we have to carefully evaluate the district's projects. Our current offer, which is above CPI, outpaces our revenue growth for the next year. Yet we believe this offer balances the board's goal of providing teachers and support staff with the raises they deserve and continuing ongoing improvements for the teaching and learning environments for our teachers, staff, and students. In recent days, it was suggested at the end of the fiscal year 19 education fund balance was $11 million to be used for these raises. It's important to understand two things regarding the education fund. First is the end of balance of any fiscal year comes right at the heels of the district receiving new tax dollars from the treasurer at the county level that come into the coffers for the following year. The May end of balance, which is probably closer to accurate, is $4.7 million. Second, any money left in the education fund balance is a one-time savings and does not necessarily compound from year to year, unlike salary increases, which is recurring and compounding. Today, the Board of Education submitted the Illinois Education Labor Relations Board its most current contract offer. This public posting is part of the negotiation process and was initiated by both unions and the board. Under the Illinois Education Labor Act, the Illinois Education Labor Relations Board, that's a mouthful, will make available both board and union offers. In closing, I want to reiterate the entire District 46 Board of Education is committed to ensuring that our negotiation proceeds fairly and in a productive manner and that our teachers and support staff are fairly and competitively compensated. We ask the community to continue to support both the teachers, the support staff, and the board as we work to diligently secure a contract agreement that is in the best interest of all stakeholders. We do have another negotiation session planned and scheduled for October 8th or 28th, which was the date that, one of the 2 dates that we could meet together that was provided by the unions for us to do. That's why it's so far out from the last time we negotiated. They gave us 2 dates. That was one we could make. So we go up to public comment. Anna Osis, hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, I'm sorry. Come up and please take a mic. And if there's questions that come up during the board, if you have questions for us, we will take notes and we'll try and provide that back to you in an email. That's why we ask for your email address.
Hi, my name is Anna Osis. I have 3 children in this school district. I'm here tonight in support of our educators for 2 reasons. First, I would like to express that I am in full support of Grays Lake teachers and paraprofessionals in their efforts to reach a fair and equitable contract. All of my children have had nothing but a positive educational experience, and that is thanks to the hard work of the teachers in our district. Thank you. I am also here to ask the board to oppose IASB Resolution 1 next month. I think we can all agree that the safety of our children is our top priority. Please consider these points when you decide how you will vote. In a March 2018 Gallup poll, nearly 3/4 of U.S. teachers opposed the idea of training teachers and staff to carry firearms in school buildings. The president of the National Education Association said, quote, "The idea of arming teachers is ill-conceived, preposterous, and dangerous. Arming teachers and other school personnel does nothing to prevent gun violence. In fact, quite the contrary. Educators would feel less safe if school personnel were armed." End quote. Law enforcement officers receive an average of 168 hours of training on weapons, self-defense, and use of force. In states that have laws aimed at arming school personnel, school staff receive significantly less training, and in some states there is no minimum training required at all. Even some of the most highly trained law enforcement officers in the country, such as New York City, see their ability to shoot accurately decrease significantly when engaged with perpetrators. For all these reasons and many more, I ask you to please vote to oppose and speak against IASB Resolution 1. Thank you for your time.
Amy Larish.
Hi, my name is Amy Larish, and I have 2 children in District 46. When we moved here in the year 2014, we chose Grays Lake because of the schools. That was our primary reason to be here. We moved from my husband's employment to the area, but chose Grays Lake even though it was going to cost a bit more in property taxes and everything else because these are top-notch schools. According to the Illinois report card, in 2018, the state average for a paid teacher was $65,721, and CCSD was paying $62,675, which is a 4.6% difference. Our teachers are asking to be paid the average of what other teachers in the state are paid, just the average. Please figure it out. It's your job. I don't know how to figure it out, but we need to figure it out. We have above average schools. Let's do right by our teachers and at the very least meet their demands to be paid the Illinois average. Thank you.
Jason White. All the way in the back.
Good evening. My name is Jason White, and I've been a teacher in this district for the last 10 years, including to some students of current board members. Over those 10 years, I've had the opportunity to experience all the highs and lows that come along with this profession. I see the issues facing us in this district tonight as a microcosm of the attitude that unfortunately runs through much of our society as a whole today. Teachers all around the country are simply not valued for the work that they do. It is truly one of the most selfless professions that any person could aspire to. Every lesson plan we create, every meeting we attend, every single decision we make is with one ultimate question in mind: what is best for our students? So a question I would like everyone here tonight to keep in mind is, what do you feel is best for our students? I chose to be a teacher. I chose to enter a profession where I felt my contributions would make a difference, not only today, but for years and decades into the future. I chose this profession knowing there would be times where I'd work late into the night, preparing lessons, grading assignments, communicating with families, not at my convenience, but at the earliest possible moment, to show the value that we have for our students and families in this community. I chose this profession knowing that there would be times that I would gladly give up my own personal time to go out and support my students outside of school. Sporting events, band performances, speaking engagements, plays, on and on. Doing all of this to show that being a good student and person in school is second only to being a respected, well-rounded person in life. I did not choose this profession to be demeaned and devalued. I didn't choose to be demeaned and devalued by our own Board of Education, a board that's supposed to speak with the voice of the community as a whole. What I did not choose was to be looked down upon by a board that doesn't seem to value the importance of effective, experienced teachers. I did not choose to be chastised because, as many people will tell us, you get your summers off, ignoring the fact that the majority of us take second and third jobs throughout the year to support ourselves and our families, ignoring the fact that the only route to improve our own salary is paying money out of our own pocket to further our own education. No compensation for the countless hours of overtime, no opportunity for promotion, only minimal reimbursement from the district that benefits from our increased studies. Every teacher in this district has similar stories. The teachers in this district and around the world are selfless. They are driven. They are professionals. They are also like many of you in the community. They're passionate and dedicated parents. They're coaches and fans at student activities. They're hardworking, educated professionals, simply looking to be treated as such. Yet the message we get from our board, elected by our community, is that our hard work is to be expected and not fairly compensated. That several of our teachers don't deserve a fair living wage. Unfortunately, this is starting to have a great effect on our schools. Each year, our district is losing highly effective, highly educated teachers to surrounding districts, or worse, losing them to other professions. Unfortunately, these teachers are hard to replace due to starting salaries that are among the lowest in the entire county. Overall, as job difficulties increase, we are losing some of our most skilled and qualified teachers in the district. So I pose the question again: what do you feel is best for our students? Being taught by teachers who are highly qualified and experienced and also feel valued by their community? Teachers who go above and beyond every day to make sure students receive the best possible instruction in school and public life? Or does it matter who teaches our students? Should we lose those same highly qualified teachers to surrounding districts and to other professions? What is best for our students? Show that you value our teachers. Thank you.
Sorry, Ms. Boxer?
I hope I can follow that. My name is Lisa Boxer. I have 2 master's degrees, and I have been a teacher in Grays Lake for the past 24 years. I was on the team of teachers that opened... Meadowview and also Frederick. I have had an amazing career in this community. I stand before you today completely baffled and heartbroken by the current situation. As a teacher and a parent in this community, In this community, I have been very blessed. I have watched my own children grow up having the best teachers around, and I have watched my colleagues teach with both passion and love. I have taught so many children in this community, including some of your kiddos. I have laughed with your children and cried with your children.
Go, Lisa, you got it.
I have given out more hugs and high fives than I can count, and I have encouraged your children to be caring, accepting individuals that believe they can do anything they put their minds to. I have spent endless nights and weekends worrying and stressing about your children's struggles, both academic and social. I have cried myself to sleep trying to figure out how to help a child deal with the loss of a parent and wiped away tears of children who have lost their pets. I have gone to their graduations, their weddings, and their funerals. I am not alone. We dedicate our lives to serving children. Every teacher helps families with struggling learners to help them succeed. Every teacher often stays until 6 at night calling parents, planning lessons, and preparing for the next day. And then we go home and grade papers late into the night. The teachers in this community go to your children's dance recitals, cheerleading competitions, football and baseball games, swim meets, and musical concerts. We bring your children into our hearts and take their fears, triumphs, and sadness home with us every night. We have invested in our lives into our students, but sometimes a thank you just is not enough. Show us our worth by showing us we are worth the money. Every one of us has dedicated our lives to helping children in this community to become selfless, confident, successful human beings, sometimes against all odds. It is our nature to always put our students before ourselves, and we will continue to do that because that is who we are. I am asking you to please honor all of our hard work, dedication, and love for the children of Grays Lake. Please don't let us continue to feel that you don't think we're valued. Thank you.
That's all I have on the sign up for the public comment. Anybody? Okay. So we'll move on. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. All right, next is we have the recognition for the Meadowview Green Ribbon School Award.
Well, Laura Morgan is getting things set up. Is this on? Yeah. I just want to mention that it's really, really exciting for us today to share the wonderful award that Meadowview won. I'm going to let them tell the story, but it's just really exciting to watch what happened at that school really from the ground up, which is kind of
What's that?
All right, there we go. Yeah. Thank you. All right, we are here tonight to share with you our journey that has brought us to this recognition as a U.S. Department of Education 2019 Green Ribbon School. There are a few of us here in the front row who are going to be sharing this journey with you, but this is absolutely the work of every single person that works at Meadowview, the dedication and hard work and creativity of all our staff. So we have many of the people here in the room today, so if you're standing, please give everyone a big wave, and if you're sitting, please stand and be recognized. All right, so our journey began quite some time ago, and it started with a group of people that read a book called Boys and Girls Learn Differently. I'm actually looking at one of those teachers standing next to the flag right there. She was part of that study group over at Meadowview. And that study group led to a discussion about just those differences and how we wanted to create an active, real-world space for our children. So around the year 2007, we created what we know as our outdoor classroom. That all began with a committee of teachers working together. They're studying the standards and the curriculum needs at the time. And at that time, Lester's had a landscape architect, and that gentleman came over and helped us out and created a plan. And then the plants and things that we started to put in were all designed as a result.
Later, a group of parents led by Mrs. Albert began to form. With our previous work and her vision, we started to hold a variety of after-school activities through Meadowview Sprouts. Topics included how to use snowshoes, aquaponics, identifying species, bees, and photography, to name a few. While the after-school activities were occurring, we had a shift in standards to the next generation science standards. And here we saw an opportunity to create a year-long problem-based learning project for our school. And Woodland Days started up across all grade levels.
So Mrs. Albert and friends from the community worked with us to explore our woodlands and worked with us to bring us different ideas and resources along the way. And a simple walkthrough of our woodlands had us all discovering the evidence of a white trout lily, which happened to be proof that our unhealthy woodland was trying to restore itself. Through this discovery and much conversation and this little plant, it brought upon something really great in our Meadowview community. And so we were ready to restore the woodlands. And though we were really excited, we knew that we could not do it alone. So Mrs. Albert, who was a constant source of ideas and research and connections throughout the community, helped us along the way. We made some phone calls and interviewed other organizations, which led us to Eileen Davis and our partnership with the Lake County Forest Preserve.
So together, we've become Habitat Heroes. All ages take part in our year-long project studying the woodland, participating in Forest Preserve facilitated classes, and restoring the health of the woodland behind our school. Our woodland days are once a month all year long. We begin by kicking off our project. That's tomorrow, actually. Throughout the year, each grade level researches and studies a topic, and we hold a sharing fair. We create teams with one class from each grade level. Each of those classes, being the expert on their topic, teaches the rest of their team about what they've learned. Ultimately, we return to the woodland in the spring to implement our grade level Habitat Hero plans that have been developed over the school year.
Meadowview students are introduced to the concept of stewardship in kindergarten. We start by introducing what a habitat is. Our focus is research on birds and how they live in a woodland habitat. We take care of feeding the birds in our outdoor classroom and take data on the birds that visit these feeders in the winter. We have made bird houses for the outdoor classroom, and we continue to make feeders each year that the students take home to foster that homeschool connection and also that desire to be a habitat hero. The focus of our study in first grade is invertebrates. We investigate the insects, arachnids, and myriapods that inhabit the woodlands in our area. Through our work in class and in collaboration with the Lake County Forest Preserve, the students become experts about these invertebrate species. They understand how their body parts and adaptations help them to survive in their environment, their role in the food chain, and most importantly, how they benefit our woodland and why we need to protect these creatures we are so quick to often squish. We have added bee and butterfly watering stations to our outdoor classroom, ensured insects have homes in our woodlands, and students create bee houses to take home to make sure they are habitat heroes in their own backyards.
The second graders' focus is on the plants, flowers, and trees that are native to the woodland habitat. They study the impact that these plants have on the environment through seed dispersal, studying the food chain, and how these plants provide food and shelter for all living things that come through our woodlands. Throughout the years, second graders have planted native species back into our woodland habitat to create a healthier environment.
Third grade focuses on researching the different mammals, amphibians, and reptiles in our woodland. We learn about the different food, water sources, and shelter that support these animals. The Forest Preserve taught us how to recognize these animals in our woodland through their tracks, as well as how these animals rely on one another to survive through food webs. During our study, we experienced the impact of removing animals from the food web, which reinforces our need to step in and help preserve the woodland behind our school. We also take our learning home by creating a tote abode or shelter for small reptiles and amphibians in our own backyard.
Fourth grade focuses on studying how the land has changed during the Ice Age, along with the arrival of European settlers and what present-day northern Illinois looks like. We are in charge of bigger overall projects that help support the health of our woodlands. Some projects we have done are cleaning buckthorn and other invasive species to help our native plants. We built a path through the woodland area, have made signs about some of the native plants and animals in the area, and built a French drain to help with the erosion in the outdoor classroom.
Take a look at the before pictures. Unhealthy woodland species, overgrown with buckthorn, a species that is so invasive it prevents sunlight from reaching the woodland's floor. And it strangles most of the natural woodland plants. Here is the same space 1 year after our fourth graders have cleared the buckthorn as a part of their woodland preserve class. What fun they had identifying this invasive species and using clippers to clear it out. Also, they were involved in planting more native species to enhance the area. Native trees remain, and sunlight is able to penetrate to the forest floor. In the spring, we see the trout lily emerging and covering the forest floor, a sign that the area is restoring itself. Over the past 2 years, we have started to see trillium, another native plant. Each year, we are noticing more of the natural species of plant emerging and flourishing in the woodland area.
Hey, as you could see before, during a rainstorm, the Meadowview outdoor classroom and woodland area would flood. This caused erosion and dirt covered our hardscape pathways. The fourth graders were in charge of fixing this problem. So they researched rain gardens, drains, and swales, and they decided on a French drain as a solution. After analyzing costs, they made a materials list. With the help from a lot of community members, they installed the French drain, and it works. So then last February, our school received some very exciting news. We had been nominated by the Illinois Green Alliance as a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School. We were the only elementary school in our entire state being nominated. And then in May, we found out that we indeed would be recognized. Meadowview received this recognition by meeting 3 pillars of excellence. Pillar 1 is about reducing the environmental impact of the district schools. Pillar 2 targets improving the health and wellness of the school community. And Pillar 3 involves providing effective sustainability and environmental education. So then on September 25th, Mrs. Morgan, 3 teacher representatives, and Dr. Glickman flew to Washington, D.C. to accept the award.
could not have done this without the support of our Meadowview PTO and community. We'd like to recognize the entire Meadowview staff again for their hard work and dedication to this continued process. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you also to the members of the Meadowview Sprouts. Please stand and also be recognized. In addition, we'd also like to take a moment to thank certain individuals for their contributions. If, when you're called, you could stand and come forward, please. To Eileen Davis, who is on your behalf. From the Lake County Forest Preserve, your creativity and willingness to take a risk on us and offer programs at our school each month, which do more than a traditionally facilitated off-site field trip would. For your knowledge, expertise, and support to help create the concept details and instruction tied to each Woodland Day, we cannot thank you enough. Nan Buck, thank you, is here representing the Lake. Thank you. That's Eileen.
I'm the Director of Education for the Lake County Forest Preserve, and Eileen has been the spearhead on our staff to interface with the Meadowview staff in creating the curriculum and being able to develop the programming to support this. And my whole staff has been at Meadowview on some days, which is just really fun for them and really exciting. And it's the kind of relationship that, as a professional educator, I love. We know that we are going deep into the students' learning and into the community, and that's what every educator wants. So thank you so much for being inspired to even call us, and we're thrilled to be able to be here.
Thank you. To Jessica Albert, your knowledge, research, vision, and participation in every Woodland Day, as well as your collaboration, support, and for pushing us forward with bigger and better ideas each step of the way, we thank you.
I want to say Lori Carter and Rebecca Gordon. Mike Braden, Amy Larish, Scott Manning. They were always the ones who were coming to the meetings and brainstorming.
To end our presentation, we'd like to share this video celebrating the impact this project has had on our students, our teachers, and the community. Thank you again to all those who have been a part of this process and experience.
Owl. So little cute. It's a baby one. It's so cute. My favorite thing about Woodland Days is that you get to learn about all sorts of animals that you may not even know that are living in your woodlands right now. I really liked the Lake County Forest Preserve coming in because it taught me a lot of things and how I need to restore, but why we need to restore. And that really came through to me. I liked about that day when we started sharing all of our hard work information with other classes, and we went to other classes and they shared their work. My favorite part about the Woodland project is that when we were cutting down buckthorn. It was fun, and I also liked when the Forest Preserve came in because I learned a lot. My favorite thing about the Woodlands is where we are going to transform our outdoor woodlands into something new so that we can see the different animals and insects. I have learned about invertebrates, also known as insects, arachnids, and myriapods. We helped make the birds get the materials ready so they can actually build their nest.
the whole school community. What I think is one of the most exciting parts of the project too is that all these classes are working together on one small part of the whole. And they know that it's not just a small part. They're actually working on all very important parts of the whole, because each part of what they're discussing and learning about is huge. And then as they share that knowledge in this bigger, wider project, they know that what they're doing is important, and what their the older classes and the younger classes are doing is just important, and all together you're making this huge impact for their school, but for the community as well. It's like a festival atmosphere around here, and so much learning is taking place.
It's neat that it's teachers involved, it's parents involved, community members, Lake County Forest Reserves, and then the students are going into the different classrooms and sharing ideas. And so they're beyond what I value a lot is the community building aspect of the project and the connection to nature.
I think this experience is something that our Meadowview students are going to remember for years to come. This year-long process where each grade level and all the students in that grade were experts on a certain area of the woodland was something that they really started to embrace and internalize and become experts on. I think that the students being able to teach each other about what their expertise is in the woodlands was something that they are so proud of.
My favorite thing about the Lake County Forest Preserve coming into health has really been about education. Both students and adults in the building have gotten a vast amount of information about what we have outside our classrooms and learning how we can take care of our land better. Fourth grade actually had two projects this year. At the beginning of the year, we started with the history of the woodlands. So we discovered what happened during the Ice Age, what happened when the European settlers came to this area, and what our land looks like in Lake County now. The second part of our project has really been taking all of the knowledge that the other grade levels and ourselves have done and planning that outside area.
I think this project was really important because if children don't learn to love the earth and appreciate living things around them, they won't grow up to love and take care of the earth as they grow into adulthood. The average school ager can identify over 1,000 corporate logos, but they can't name 10 native plants or animals to their area.
You come here on a woodland day and there's a buzz of excitement.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment how amazing it is when a passionate group of educators gets together and has a vision, and then uses their time and resources, and that includes resources outside the school, so taking advantage of the knowledge in the community and really digging into that knowledge, really to forward that vision. I also want to comment to you, Laura, that your teachers told me how much your vision led this effort. So we really need to acknowledge that as well, please. I hope that this staff is feeling really proud of your accomplishments. Let's please give this group a hand again. And Mr. Whedon, I think we're taking a break. Is that right?
Yep, we have a hanging like cake over there. There's a lot of people in the room, so we'll cut it up into small pieces, and you're all welcome to have some. So we'll take a short break, and we'll cut the cake. And
Because when there's something to celebrate, we celebrate with cake, for sure.
Not on the live stream. You have to get out there. was this one.
But if you go up, it'll tell you what number.
Good night.
No, my husband is a sprout.
Betcha.
So we'll reconvene.
So,
Hi there.
hi. So I just have to comment that I know, but you know, it's very interesting, serendipitous timing that these two presentations are on the same night. We learned about kind of, you know, what's going on at one school, and now we're going to be talking about what's happening district-wide, and that actually is just a coincidence, but really exciting. So,
I was watching that presentation and going, huh.
well, you were a part of that act.
Yes. Oh, I'm there.
You're a big part of that act.
Did quite a bit up there.
Yep.
Well, good evening.
Hey, Keith, I hate to do this to you, but microphone.
Okay. Good evening. I am here to talk about sustainability in School District 46. I'm very proud of our department. We are totally green, clean on our chemicals. We use 3M. Am I good, Joe? There we go.
Yep, yeah.
3M products were partnered with Home Depot, who used to be AmSam, and they got purchased by Home Depot Pro, I should say. And that is the commercial side of Home Depot. All our chemicals and toilet paper and paper towel, pretty much everything we use in the district comes from them, and they keep us on the straight and narrow and staying green. They do a great job, actually. They've been, the last 10 years, we've been gold rated for the last 10 years, every time they do a sustainability thing on us. All the chemicals use cold water, so we save energy by not heating up water to use, or heat up water. Excuse me. As for recycling, cardboard, paper, plastic is all done through waste management. There is a 6-yard recycling dumpster at the 3 big schools, and I believe it's a 4-yard at the 4 smaller schools, the elementary schools. Here we get dumped, I believe, just about every day, because the kitchen's here for the main kitchen in the district, so a lot of cardboard's produced. Light bulbs, we recycle light bulbs. The firm is Fluorocycle, and they are in Volo. We usually do that twice a year. We do recycle our latex paint that we don't use in the district, or the leftover paint that's left in the paint cans. And we also recycle all the motor oil that we use in the air compressors and the lawnmowers. As for water, the new thing we've been doing as of late, the last 1.5 years, is upgrading sinks to touchless so they don't run on. And at Woodview, we have been replacing the tank-style toilets with the new tank-style toilets, which are low flow, which is helping to save water. We are also in the process of installing bottle fillers so they don't have to waste plastic bottles and put them in the recycling, which has been working well. We've been able to get a couple of grants to help us put some of them in at some of the schools. As far as, here's going to be the big one, solar. The solar's been doing very well. I do not have numbers, but it is great. It has been saving us energy. Love sunny days. Right, John? Love sunny days. Love sunny days. LED, we have not done any LED yet in the classrooms because I'm waiting because we're getting closer to doing a direct replacement bulb for the fixtures we have. And with the solar, it would not pay to really do a big campaign on changing out the lights to LED. However, we have changed out the outside parking lot lights. We are about 80% done with that. Hopefully we will finish that tomorrow and Friday, if the weather holds. Some of the simple things that we've been doing is we've switched to commercial battery weed eaters, so we're saving fuel and emissions there. The other one that we've been doing for quite a long time is bulk salt. We don't buy any bag salt in the district. The night person goes around with the dump truck at night as he's going around to do building setups and all that, and we usually have about 30 to 40 plastic buckets at each building, and if we have to do it every day, we do it every day. So that's saving money, A, with bulk salt, and no more plastic bags in the trash, and no more bags laying around going to waste. And that is all I have on that. Does anybody have any questions? Or does anybody want to see any other information? Or suggestions? I mean, we're always looking for suggestions for recycling.
Didn't the village just start making food scrap for the commercial buildings in town?
I have not heard of it yet.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry. Didn't the village just institute a food scrap program for
Composting?
in town for businesses? Look like you
I
have
mean,
an
I
answer.
can speak to that a little bit. So, at the Grace Lake Recycling Center, they recycle cardboard boxes and electronics. They have 4 bins for food scraps. The very unfortunate thing about it going on in our community is that recycling center is being used as a dumping ground. People are dumping paint cans there. I have pictures like almost every time I go for my Girl Scout troop to say, hey, what can we do about this? So I am happy to see that the village has started some food scrap recycling. I am disappointed that it's kind of being abused by people, possibly people in our community and maybe even other communities. The food scrap bins at the recycling center are often contaminated with people putting plastic bags in there. I know specifically from Swalco that when plastic is put in there, all the people who are working towards recycling food scraps, it just goes in the garbage. So somebody dumps a plastic bag in there, it just goes to the garbage. And then, speaking of food scraps, it would be great if, especially with Meadowview earning the green ribbon, if our schools could begin to think about, I know at Stevenson High School, they have compost programs. So specifically, in our cafeterias, if we could begin to think about recycling food scraps, it's a great skill to teach children, and it's something that kids are very capable of. I know at a Meadowview school dance, we had 8th grade students come and help, and we had a zero waste event for a Meadowview school dance. And I think, if we did that across the schools, teaching the kids and staff how to do it, I think
I want to say the village just started some sort of a program with.
Curbside.
Maybe it's something.
They're trying to do curbside.
We can,
But I know a little bit of research that we've done, exactly what you said, any kind of plastic or foreign material in it.
Right.
It goes right back in the waste.
Because we can use that stuff for, landscaping, or whatever we can use it around the district itself.
Right.
I'm just curious about the vehicles. I know that the village, their sustainability plan, as vehicles need to be replaced, they replace them with energy efficient vehicles or electric vehicles, I think is what they're, I don't know if they are, that's my impression that they're, I'm wondering if we're doing
I haven't seen any
that.
electric plow trucks or anything else. I don't know if they're doing it in their police cars in their, that aspect, but I don't know if the trucks have, I haven't seen any of the trucks running on natural gas or anything else.
What about aren't we replacing some of our vehicles? Are we doing that, or can we, or do you, okay.
I think other than 9 vehicles, I don't know if the expense would be worth.
Might be cost
I mean,
prohibitive.
it's definitely something we can check into, but
I'm
it's
just
like waste
asking.
management, they're running the trucks on natural gas, but that truck runs 10 to 12 hours a day. Ours, the most they run is when we plow snow. Other than that, it's a 2-mile trip to one school and back to the other. So I mean, electric would be great, but I don't know if you could set it up to plow snow or.
Right.
If we're at that point, I know they're doing it in buses, so I mean, it's coming.
Right.
So, anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is board reports.
on, on that form, so we just wanted to bring it to the, we just want to bring it to the board for consensus to make sure that we're all good with our district presenting at a national conference and have Jim sign the paperwork.
Sure. Is everybody good with that? Anybody else? I have one thing. It is National Principals Day month.
All month.
All month is
All
National
month.
Principals Month, and we have the proclamation to prove it. So happy Principals Month, National Principals Month.
I went to the kindergarten. They have this Entice program for teachers. And for, I think it was $20 or $25, I've forgotten. But I went to a teacher workshop on biomimicry, and it was phenomenal, first of all. And all this free stuff, books and stuff. So I don't know. Can I just hand them to you and you can just
Wonderful.
And then,
If I knew what biomimic.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I don't have to do research on that.
No, it's the idea of looking at nature to find solutions to current problems. So, Velcro is an example where some guy who invented Velcro saw burrs and thought, oh, how can we manufacture that? So there's all sorts of different stuff. So like all these kids' books. And then I just found something called the Watershed Game. Is it working?
Yep.
Yes. The Watershed Game at the University of Minnesota, and there's a community version and a classroom version. So I thought it might be fun to either, I can do it privately with just our families or friends or whoever to play it, but there is this big community version where we could bring in a lot of different people and play so that we could all learn about the watershed since we live in the basin that's currently getting really filled with water. So just an FYI. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll go. Last Monday night, I attended the policy committee meeting for the very first time ever. It was as exciting as it sounds. And I guess we're going to be having some updates tonight of some policies that we reviewed. Most of them were changes in legal references. There were a few, I wouldn't call them substantive, but less than nothing, or more than nothing, less than substantive. And Stephen has the pleasure of updating us on that shortly.
Superintendent report?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Lewis. He's going to talk with us about our late start and kids assessment window.
Right, so thank you. So last month I was able to talk to you about our late start, and so we had another late start since our last meeting. The majority of our teachers were in their job-alike meetings, and I don't know if I've ever explained that. And so job-alike means the people who have the same job in the district, either by content or by grade, come together and meet. So we have groups that are meeting about math and literacy and about science and social science and PE and art and music and special ed and EL, and it goes on and on and on. And so we have different locations. And so while some of those groups had time on the opening institute days, now they were very happy to have some additional work time to work on their scope and sequence documents, their cycle assessments, their resources, all of those things. So the time goes very quickly, and so it was a positive day for the late start. The thing I like is that every group is in a different place, so it's a real form of differentiation. Everybody's doing what they need to do at that moment to best serve the students that they're working with. The teachers work very hard during that time, and then it carries over into other meetings as well. I also wanted to share about our kids assessment window. That sounds interesting that we're having a kids assessment window. Kids actually stands for the Kindergarten Individual Developmental Survey. And so it's part of the state assessment system that we screen all of our kindergartners. And it really is to talk about readiness for kindergarten. And so our kindergarten teachers have 14 measures that they're looking at for every single kindergarten student, much of it through observation. And so the window started yesterday on the 15th and goes through the 28th. So our kindergarten teachers, it's a big shout out for them. They're working really hard. They're meeting individually with students or in small groups to gather information. There's readiness about literacy concepts, math concepts, social emotional concepts. The list goes on, about 14 different measures. So the teachers do use that information. The difficulty is that some of our students are showing that they aren't ready for kindergarten. And so kindergarten is very academic with our standards that are expected in kindergarten. So the schools are working to provide extra support to those students and to make sure that we're giving them everything that we can. So that, again, the kindergarten teachers and the support staff around them are working really hard about the kids' assessment window. 14 measures per kid.
Very time consuming.
How long is the window?
2 weeks. So some of them thankfully do match some of our curriculum targets. So they have been able to look for it. So some of them are number identification, and so they're already doing that in class. Some of them are part of independent practice and play. So teachers have to see if they can initiate play with another student or if they are appropriate, making decisions about what activities they should do. So they can do that in multiple settings throughout the kindergarten day.
Some of that kind of like a passive evaluation then, so just kind of observing to see.
Most of them is, sometimes the teacher will say, can you show me 5 of something? And so there are some direct questions, but a lot of it is observational. They have a checklist and lots of them have a clipboard that they're paying attention to. And some of them, it's just from discussion. Do they ask and answer questions? Do they participate in class experiences? So some of it is just school experiences, so it's not necessarily a test, but it is observational. It is helpful. The state does offer it that we can do it 3 times a year. We've chosen just to do it 1 time a year at the moment because it is time consuming and it doesn't necessarily fit with all of our academics throughout the whole school year. I just wanted you to know that that was one of the things that we're working on.
All right, I have 2 other items to share with you. One is I'd just like to advertise an upcoming program that we're really excited about. This is a parent program. On November 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. Right here at GMS, we'll be hosting the program called Settling. It says settling, but it says settling, but it should say setting. So we have to fix this, I think. Setting limits and avoiding power struggles. We have a award-winning psychologist named Dr. David Walsh will be presenting this program. It's for parents of students of all ages. I'm just going to share with you the titles of his books because it will give you a sense of what this presentation will be. Here's the first one. Why Do They Act That Way? A Survival Guide to the Adolescent Brain for You and Your Teen. That's one of them.
Can somebody get me that book?
You can. We can get you that book, and you can come. And one is called No, Why Kids of All Ages Need to Hear It and Ways Parents Can Say It. And his newest book is Smart Parenting, Smarter Kids, which is not as fun of a title. But anyway, we are really excited about that. And by the way, there will be babysitting for school-age students. This flyer, which I do see needs to be updated with correct spelling, states how people can get in touch with us regarding babysitting. So we're excited about that. Then I have another quick announcement or piece to share, but I want to connect to the projector for a moment to do it. So give me one moment. Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, all among friends.
They were in London.
No, I'm talking about very
Want a little botany lesson? Can I share? So this is a. Oh.
I don't think I want to know what
I keep forgetting I'm on a microphone. This is a jack pine cone.
Okay.
To be continued.
So I'm really happy to share that we now have our school board policies online in a really easy to use, all human-friendly method for all the community to be able to use. So I just want to quickly show you where it exists on our website and how to use it. So I went ahead and went right from our homepage to the board page. Easy to do. And like most things on any website, there's lots of ways to get a place, but I'm going to show you this way. So I'm clicking on resources on the board page. And now I'm moving on down to Board of Education Policy Manual. So as you may know, in the past, that's been a big old PDF that you have to search through, and we have to update. Now, we have electronic files, and when you click on it, there. Okay. When you click on it, the sections immediately come up. So let's imagine that you are looking for a policy related to students. You click on section 7, and here are all of the policies. And you want to know about, oh my goodness, school admissions. And right here, you can click on the policy and see all of those policies. And there's a quick search button, so if you want to see about, I don't know, harassment. I found it on one. There we go. Click on it. Oh, that's probably just over now. Anyway, you get the point. There's a quick search. And we're very excited about it. And as Jason was commenting earlier, Stephen's going to be talking with us about the next round of school board policies. Once the board has approved new policies, which we expect, or updated policies, which we expect to happen at the next board meeting, then within, I think, a day, right, Sue, a day or so, right, immediately, corrections and, yep, they will get uploaded to our website. So, any questions about this? All right, that's the news, and that is it. The superintendent's report.
Okay, next we have is the approval of the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Braden,
Aye.
Mackey,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye. On the action items, first action item is a motion to approve the termination of employment of Carlos Marchand as a probationary employee of the school district effective immediately.
So moved.
Weedman,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mackey,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
The next one is, the next action item is to approve the purchase of the Newsella subscription, which was one of the items that came out of the last EBF strategic plan meeting. That was one of the high requests there. Can you explain the program? Sorry, Paul, put you on the spot.
No, it's all good. So I shared a hefty document with you. One of the things that we have been using is Newsella. We've been using the free version of it. I shared in the document that over at the very end of last school year, we got notified that Newsella was going to be changing their format a little bit. We didn't worry about it. We didn't necessarily think it was going to be a big deal until the school year started and realized that all the things that were free were no longer available to us. And so the company has shared that they realized that maybe they weren't clear enough in their update. So Newsella is a resource that we use for informational text. It is widely used across the district. It's part of many of our unit plans. We use many of the articles as part of our quick cycle assessments or our common formative assessments or part from our cycle assessments. So we use the resource very regularly. wonderful thing instructionally is that they'll have a current events article. If something happens in the world, there will be, within a day or 2 days, there'll be an article explaining what happened about it, and it's available in multiple reading levels. And so we would like to continue to be able to use this resource. The staff has reached out to me in every way possible to say, can we please, it's come up regularly, can we get it so that we have availability. So a group of teachers and administrators met and we reviewed all of this. So as Mr. Weedman said, literacy materials is a high need for us, and so this is just the beginning or just first. It really is just getting back to what we had available to us free last year. So unfortunately, it's not necessarily a whole new thing, but we were able to negotiate and make it available for all of our schools, and the materials start in mid-second grade level. So we'll be able to have current good resources. What I also love about it is that we're going to be able to use it for some of our state mandates about topics such as SEL and LGBTQ. Those are all going to be addressed as part of Newsela that we can add into our curriculum as required by the state. But the most important part is that we're going to have good text that's related to our science, social science, and ELA topics so that we can continue to have a good resource. With the paid version, we have some cool tools. There are some digital assessments the kids can take. There's a screening tool that we can find out what reading level, so the computer will automatically give a child text that's at their appropriate level, and as they continue to do well on them, the level can continue to increase. So with our Chromebooks, we think it will be a great tool for our 3rd through 8th graders as well. We looked at all the different options, but we felt like this 5-year plan was a good plan. It helped reduce the cost significantly annually. I'm glad to answer any other specific questions.
I know at our table when we had the strategic planning, it was a big topic of the conversation was this program alone, but also the other instructional materials being
this
updated.
was the first topic, the first thing that came up at our table as well. You know, it's
And those weren't planted by me.
No, not at all.
Those were definitely from the teachers' responses of things they were looking for.
You're talking about the EBF meeting
Yep.
that we had the planning?
Yes.
So I guess one question I have, is it broadly used by all the teachers, or is it just a very vocal subset of teachers that are proponents for it, just to help understand?
So it's built into almost every grade level's unit plan that these are the instructional resources that we're recommending.
Okay.
So we are using it, as I said, for some of our assessments, we're using them. The good thing is we can pull articles from when they're just not timely articles, they're not specific. We've been able to pull them. So I would say a vast majority.
Okay.
With the pro version, we're also able to monitor usage, and we're able to monitor how much we're using it, all the different features.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing.
Thank you.
I know that you're revamping the ELA curriculum.
We're
Or
working.
you that's just starting, right?
That's the hope, yes.
Well, and I'm just curious, is there a comparable resource that would have fiction?
So-
This is mostly this is all nonfiction.
So nonfiction is actually the hardest area to find.
Gotcha.
Materials that have high interest for kids and at different levels of text. Teachers typically don't have difficulty finding good literature. While we still want to keep looking, I'm not discrediting that we still need some more of that. The nonfiction is really the hardest part to find.
Are you asking Christy specifically about how, because your eyes kind of lit up when he was talking about how it levels for the kids. Is that what you were wondering about?
Just all of it, my impression is that there's more an emphasis on nonfiction, and fiction is so important for empathy and skill building. And I just didn't know if we were, I know that we have fiction, but I didn't know if it was coming from an online source that required technology or just still from books.
Some of both.
Great.
I personally believe in a balance in all those things.
Sure.
The one feature that they're working on is to have paired text. And so for a curriculum person, that makes a whole lot of sense. You're pairing a piece of literature and a piece of nonfiction. You build the content background for the stories with the real information. So that's what they're also working on. And so they have connections to pieces of literature already embedded in. So I like all those kind of
ideas, because some kids are definitely more on the literature side, and some kids really don't like the literature side, they like the nonfiction. So we have to meld. We have to encourage students to do both.
Do you have any concern about the term being 5 years? Is there?
The teachers were actually happy with more than a 3 years or more is what they were looking for, because they don't want it to be gone. We want to be able to have access over time. And so I think the 5 years makes sense.
Does the content get refreshed every year?
They are, it's in the packet too, they are every day updating new resources. And so they have a plan to add so many more every day to move forward. So the content is always being renewed and refreshed and happening.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
Is there any concern about increased electronic reading versus physical paper reading and impact on retention and learning?
Again, when we rolled out the one-to-one implementation, we said that it has to be a balanced approach. So I still want kids, teachers are able to print these articles too, but I would say the vast majority of kids like the computer reading. And I know as an old person like me, it's not my favorite thing, but kids are using our tools like Cami, where they're able to annotate, and they're able to go into the text like I used to with a highlighter or a pencil. They are able to do all those things digitally. But balance is really important.
Okay, there's just some literature out there with electronic reading, you're more in a skimming mode as opposed to deep comprehensive reading. So that would be an area of concern where, having physical copies where you would expect more deep retention to be important.
One of the things that we're noticing though is that for our state assessment and for our other assessments, they're all digital, so we do have to give kids practice for that.
Yeah, that's the reality of life too, and so there has to be kind of a coexistence of the two.
The balance of all of it.
Okay.
Any more questions? I think we had a first and a second, so do the first. Oh wow! There you go.
LaCroix?
Aye.
Braden?
Aye.
Strack?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Weedman?
Aye.
Mackey?
Aye.
I will just say thank you from everyone. They'll be pleased. The company is ready to activate licenses tomorrow if we're wanting that to happen. So that's a good thing.
Next is unfinished business, and that would be an update on the Community Engagement Committee.
So as you know, I have a hard time staying on track, so I made a PowerPoint. So I need to hook up to.
I think the record. Yeah.
It's
sprouted. I'm sure there's more to it.
Microphone? All right, so this is new, so we'll see how this goes. So first of all, this is broken into segments. So if it goes too long, at any point we can table it, because I know it's getting late. So I will just tell me or show me. So community engagement, I've done, as you know, been working on this for a while. And the question that I love that has come up when I've done community cafes and that kind of thing is what deserves our attention right now. So I'm going to use that to move this presentation forward, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what deserves our attention now. Do you want to talk about who, the what, the purpose, and we'll save next steps for last. And just heads up, Jason, I'm calling on you if no one else calls. Anyone? Anyone?
I would love to talk about purpose. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do too. Okay, however, I still am trying to figure out how to use this. There we go. Okay, so thinking kind of big to narrow. First of all, the community engagement plan, just a little bit of review. We have a unique place in democracy to be able to support an informed and engaged public. It allows us to carry out all 6 of the school board tasks that we're required to carry out, and the current strategy that is already in place is a really strong foundation to build from. Just to review, the purpose of a school board are these 6 things, and I found the animation button, so number 2 is the one that we're that we're focusing on. It certainly is directly related to connect the community, but it helps us do all 6, as you know. Additionally, why our community? It could raise consciousness about public issues so that we can contribute as a district to not just our own schools, but also Big E education, meaning public education as a national issue. It can help us work through conflicting issues on the front end of them and identify options, similar to what I think you did in the strategic planning session, but I wasn't involved with that, so I'm guessing that's what it was. Create a supportive atmosphere within the community for public education, and these things as well, all of which come from ISBE's suggestions. So what value would, we already do this, so what value could we add if we wanted to? We already have a convenient virtual platform that's accessible and consistent and responsive, but we could expand it by increasing accessibility to graphic representations, the dashboard that we've talked about, so that people can see they could see where they could volunteer in projects that are aligned with district goals. They can kind of track our progress according to our strategic goals and know where we are. And then the second, when I looked at the platforms, I also saw face-to-face interactions. We're already doing that. It's responsive, predictable, and consistent. But if we expanded these offerings, we could have an increased accessibility to people, for people to come together. We could also mitigate some of limitations of Robert's Rules of Order. Right now, public comment is one of our face-to-face opportunities, but it is only them talking to us. We can't respond. So we could expand our face-to-face offerings with some of the community cafes, which I'll get into later. And then it expands the opportunities for shareholders to do these 4, to engage with us in the 4 ways that ISBE suggests they should. Right now we're using the arts to accessorize face-to-face and virtual engagement strategies, but if we expanded our community engagement program, we could actually leverage the arts to do what they do most powerfully, which is increase accessibility to those with visual and kinesthetic acumen, which I think characterizes a lot of people in our community, and generally just leverage a wider spectrum of our neighbors' strengths. Okay, so that's the purpose. I swear I tried to get it shorter, but so where do you want to go now? Who or what?
Well, who?
Who, that's the shortest one. That's easy. Okay, so stakeholders, according to the stuff that I've worked with, says really anyone who's directed by the board's decisions, which is everyone. So I broke it down into segments: residents who are directly engaged in pre-K-8 education, who are indirectly engaged with pre-K-8 education. If we do a dashboard, I think we would want to make sure that we have school employees who are directly working with that dashboard. Civil servants like librarians who are dedicated to educating youth, small business owners, and then of course board members. However, having done this a few times, it ends up with a lot of Post-its and a lot of information that we then have to coordinate. So these are things that we would have to work on together, and this is, I think, would be great committee work. But I think the information and how do we manage all that information and all those opinions is setting kind of what we did at our last meeting, setting clear expectations, setting rules for engagement, and then being really clear about what roles and responsibilities would support the process. I know just being involved in some principal hiring committees, it's really nice. In 127, the then superintendent, when I showed up in the room, there was a whole big room of us, and she just said, you can rest in that you're not making the decision. She did it with a lot of compassion, but it was very clear that we were just there to consult. We were not going to be hiring the next, or deciding who the next principal would be. Okay, so that leaves what? And the cursor doesn't show on your screen, but it shows on mine. So ISB has put out a community engagement platform, a guide for us, and it talks about how effective community engagement plans have different purposes depending on your community, and they land them on a spectrum. So the first one is inform on one side, where it's mostly just information push out. And then all the way on the other side of the spectrum is when you're actually asking the community to help you make decisions, and anything in between. Again, I wasn't at the strategic planning process, but it sounds to me like it was an involved, where they weren't deciding, the community at large wasn't deciding, right? They weren't voting on what our plans.
We didn't do a strategic plan recently, but we had the EBF fund spending plan meeting, and I think that's what you're talking about and what people at this table were talking about.
I think
Are you talking about strategic planning from years ago?
I am.
Okay,
yeah.
Never mind, because we were using the term strategic planning at this table recently, and that was,
Thank you for the.
Sure.
I would imagine that EBF, they weren't making decisions, it was just more a
Correct.
consult, right?
Yeah.
So we're already doing this stuff, it would just be good to think about what we're doing in these terms, I think. So that goes to the mission and vision of the plan that I proposed. Sean took a look at the comments that you emailed to me about just having the mission and vision be more inspirational, and I know you've done a look at best practices. My understanding of mission and vision is that the mission illustrates the direction and the vision is kind of what it looks like, how we're going to do it, but both from a high level. So I added, kind of switched some language around, tried to align it with the mission of the district too. And this again is just a draft. And then key activities, there's two general categories. One is to develop an organizational chart so people in the community know who to go to for what, and they're not feeling like it's a wild goose chase when they need something fixed, if they do. And that comes straight from ISB. And then the second category is just more equitable mechanisms for engagement that are, again, virtual, face-to-face, and that leverage participatory art installations. So virtual, again, we're in the what. We are, and add to this if I've missed stuff, but we already have the school board tab on the district website. We already do social media, Facebook, Twitter, Dr. Glickman's blog, email, all of that. And then we could expand with the dashboard that we've been talking about to do those 4 things. And then I don't know if it would work to have updates in building newsletters or if we would want that, but that's just a possibility, and certainly there are others. Then face-to-face, in addition to all the things that we already do, we could have community cafes. And to define that, this is very similar to, I think, what you did with EBF. It's just an idea. It's an opportunity for stakeholders to come together and to talk about whatever issue is on the table. And then, depending on the format that we want to use, it could be an information push, it could be a discussion, it could be evaluating our goals or our progress, or initiating new ideas. And it looks like this. So the 2 pictures on our left were my husband and I screened a documentary called Beyond Measure, and Dr. Diaz was at that also with some other people from BPAC. And the map on the wall was just, what do you love about our community? And some really cool things came up from that. A number of green spaces, the bike trails, and the fact that we have about 10 libraries within walking distance of most of our schools. If you count the school libraries and then the public libraries, there's a lot of libraries. I'm like, hey, what could we do with that? Then the other side, the top one, was a steering committee for IPEN, which is an organization in the UK about positive education, and they charged us with figuring out how we could expand positive education internationally. The one below that is in Oak Park, and generally the idea is just it's small groups of people talking about issues that are pertinent to the school and to our district. That's super fun. That leads me to the rotating art installations. We've done a lot of, not the board, but the community has done a lot of pilot programs at the library, at summer days, at a school in Round Lake. the doors at the art fair, which I'll show you in just a minute, and then at the community youth art fair. And essentially, it's a passive display where people can, at their convenience, walk into the library or the village hall or wherever, some civic space, and they can put their ideas up on an art exhibit that we then can compile all that information and just be aware of it, and then we'd have to figure out what we want to do with it. But it looks like this. So this is something that the Fine Arts Commission did from Foundation 46. Just when was it? Several, oh, she left. Okay, years ago. So the one on the left is a passive display, just information about the value of the arts. And it's arranged by Bloom's taxonomy, and they're just spray painted boxes that swivel. And then the one on the right, we painted doors and painted and stenciled questions on them. So the questions were very simple. The one on the green door says, "What are you exploring?" And then the kids and adults could come up and write their answers on the door and graffiti the doors. And then we compiled all that information and just looked at what people were doing so that we could think about our programming. So that gets into monitoring. Again, we're still in the what is this? And there's 3 themes that can launch our discussion: excellent environment, excellent discourse, and inclusive decision making. And I'm not going to read the results from those because you have that, but we can look at those themes through these 4 perspectives and then enter whatever we find onto the dashboard that's virtual so people can see what's going on in our district in just one more way. So, next steps. I know you can't see the cursor, but I'm trying to get it to next steps so I can click on it. So what I'm asking for is if we could consider this proposal and approve the creation of a committee of 5 to 7 people for a 2-year pilot, define the parameters, what across the board in ISB's stuff all over the place, it says you have to, as a board and an administration, decide if and how much board time, staff time, budget you want to invest in this before you launch it. And then if we could just set a deadline. Deadlines are really helpful for me, so I would love a deadline.
Who are you thinking are the 5 to 7 people?
I
mean, not names, but like
just stakeholder groups,
yeah.
just people from those segments.
Okay, so the segments match up. You want to have representation,
Right, from the
segments.
get-go.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would be your process of selecting those folks?
That's a
You haven't
great
done that yet,
question.
that's fine.
No, that's good. I think I would consult you, and we should go from there and decide on I can come up with a launch point of discussion. That's not a problem. But at this point, I don't have names in mind other than stakeholder groups.
So at the end of 2 years, what would you consider a success for the pilot?
Honestly, that we would just have a few laps around the learning curve, and we would be able to identify what's working, what's not. And really what would be nice is what are the key indicators that are quality indicators, not just attendance, but actually that we're moving the district forward in whatever direction we decide to. It's just one little one. I mean, there's plenty of others.
You also say just representation of all community voices, maybe a
Right.
success metric. Like, is if the purpose of part of the purpose of the committee is to make sure that
Go write these
all
down.
voices are heard. So, how do we measure that?
Yeah.
That, our district staff has like data, from this group to make decisions with and input, kind of like we did with EBF. I almost think that EBF meeting is like a microcosm of what you might be trying to do.
Well, what you've already done, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just been a few years since the strategic plan.
Well, the parameters you have listed there, who's going to make that the committee of 5 to 7 people, or
I think
you're
we would have
going to kind of set that up beforehand before we consider the proposal?
I can throw out ideas, but I think I know how much time I personally can put into it. I don't know how much time you want to put into it and how much board meeting time, and then I don't know how much time you want to, if there's margin for staff. I don't have the expertise to do the dashboard, so I'm going to need help from someone who knows a lot about that. So just I think my knee-jerk initial reaction is that we should set the parameters.
So, will the engagement committee that we have now, I think these are close, the engagement committee we have now, will they work on kind of giving us like a list of recommended parameters to start kind of the discussion the next time we start bringing this up?
There isn't a committee at this point, it's just Stephen and me.
Will Stephen, you then kind of start a list for us to have discussion topics around?
Yeah, I can.
I think it would be helpful to
think-
have like a straw man. I think, just for us to spur ideas and
Right.
spitball against.
Okay,
That would be good.
but that requires time with you, so tell me when.
So we'll work
Not
out,
right this
yeah.
second, but yeah.
We're not gonna, yeah, but we'll.
But do you
so
have time?
We'll make, yep, for community engagement, yes.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. It's just a
Yes.
busy time right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, so you and I and, Stephen probably can sit down and
Yeah.
maybe fill out the proposal further, is that what, is that the
Is
hope?
that what we want?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. So that proposal should include the parameter, or at least a launch point for
Yeah.
discussion for parameters,
Spitball
right?
ideas.
Do you want some, so backing up the framework, the themes in that? Are those? I can start generating spitball ideas for strategy if I think that this is in the right ballpark. Are we good with these? Yeah.
Good start.
And then, perspectives, does anyone have expertise in balanced scorecard? I don't need to. I took a class, but it's all theory at this point, so. And there's some other thing I like. Okay, so then, these lenses are good. They're straight according to the tool, so I'm kind of going vague at this point, but it seems logical that we look for people first because we're not a for-profit business. And look them first. The second one typically is finances, but since we have a direction towards sustainability, I've changed that kind of to trickle bottom line, but my own version of it, so time, money, and planet. And then internal processes and organizational capacity, that those are good perspectives and things like that. When should I have these?
Well, I'm wondering about, maybe you and Stephen and I can talk about what would be realistic for all of us, and then we can talk about when we can bring something back to the board.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be a lot of stuff, there's a lot, too much there to go back in 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
maybe, towards the end of next month, maybe into December, depending on how long it takes you to get everything together.
I would just say the name, old business. Is that right?
Yeah, so, well, and also as we, later on, we'll be talking about, hey, what's gonna happen at the next meeting? So that would be the right time probably in the future.
Yeah, and when the agenda comes out, comes out on Friday, for the next Wednesday meeting, if that's something you want to see about adding to the agenda, we can always do it that way too. At least to have a discussion, old business discussion point. There's different ways to get it on the agenda. There's no one right or wrong way to do it.
Okay, sounds good. And then I have one more question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done moving the chair?
I don't know, anybody else got a presentation they're gonna move for? I'm about ready to pass out of the chair, it's so hot in here. 150 people leave and it gets warmer in here. I haven't quite figured that out. I'm kidding, we're almost done. You don't have to worry about it.
He's turning on the lights.
No. He's just laughing at me as he's walking across the room. I'm not going to do anything for him.
This you?
It's not mine, but someone gave it to me and I used it. I don't know.
Might be for Joe. Joe, is this your clicker?
No, this is
It's
a
a
pen.
pen.
Okay, so, on the new business. The discussion of the IASB delegate for the III conference. in the past years, it's been, Stephen has done that part for the Triple I Conference. Is it Thursday night? Or is that Friday morning?
Saturday.
It's Saturday morning?
Like the first half of Saturday.
Okay.
Or like 10 to noon or something like that.
It's usually right after the keynote.
Basically, the responsibility is to go and vote as we discussed as a board.
Correct.
I wouldn't mind being part of that. I will be there. I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Tag, you're it.
You got it.
Go right ahead.
By me.
Yeah.
All right, so Jason will be our delegate. Unless anybody else, sorry, I just got to jump to that, didn't I? Anybody else have any interest in it?
Do we need a backup? Don't we have an alternate? I think we have to name an alternate too. I think Christy raised her hand.
No, I put my
Oh.
hand on my nose.
That's not
I thought I saw Christy do it.
I'm planning on being there, so. I'll
Okay.
be the alternate, it's fine.
Perfect.
In the event I am unwilling or unable to fulfill my duties.
Okay, the next is the first look at the first look and review of board policies that the policy committee has gone over. I will turn that over to those guys that made the meeting. I got stuck at work.
Yep. So, like Jason mentioned before, most of them were legal reference changes or minor language changes, things like that. But there were a couple that we thought we should discuss as a board before we make any decision on. One is 2:230 public participation at meetings and petitions to the board. This one, it suggests or prescribes a minimum time allowed for public comment with a minute. You have to offer a minimum of 20 minutes per topic, or a minimum of 30 minutes overall, with the ability to end public comment if there aren't any or whatever, if there's like one person who says something. So it has that in there. It also prescribes the 4 minutes for each individual speaking, allowing 4 minutes with the ability to adjust that if there's a lot of people who want to speak and you want to make sure you get everybody in, that sort of thing. So I would say read over the policy. I think it's probably fine. I mean, we don't generally have an issue with public comments going on for 6 hours or anything anyway. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and probably approve that one as it's suggested. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, so the attachment to the agenda shows exactly what we're contemplating changing.
Yeah.
And it's not a major change, but I do think each member should read what was there and what's now being proposed and just make sure we're all happy with it.
Yeah. And it's, so, and like when public participation takes less time than the minimums, it shall end. Any one person to address should limit it to 4 minutes. In unusual circumstances, when an individual has made a request to speak for a longer period of time, they may be allowed to speak for more than 4 minutes. You can shorten the time to conserve time to give the maximum number of people an opportunity to speak. So one thing it also would enable us to do is if we had a series of meetings where we had lots of public comments that would otherwise go on forever, if we can limit that comment time to half an hour if we want to. So, or whatever amount of time we select. So I wouldn't go more than 30 minutes, I guess.
So if I'm remembering correctly, the changes, the heading of those changes are specifically about that, right? Because the 4 minute limit per person was already in policy. So the change is having it in writing that the board has the ability to limit what public comment would be, the amount of time, right? That's really the change.
Yeah, yeah. So read that one over and then we can discuss and vote on that one next time. The other one that we wanted to talk about was 4:20. It's about fund balances, and this one suggests, well, the change is that it says that the school district seeks to maintain a year-end fund balance to revenue of no less than 15 to 20% as calculated under the ISPE school district financial profile. I mean, we're free to set whatever we want the limit to be. They do mention that districts who have a target of 25% or higher for a fund balance to revenue ratio would result in a school district being in the lowest risk category for this factor of the district's financial profile. So take that into consideration as well. I mean, that to me, that's encouraging risky behavior, I'd say. I guess, I don't know. Our current fund balance requirement is 25, is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So they have a formula of 4 indicators that they use that are weighted, whereby they come up with what a district that they think a district should have on hand as far as the fund balance goes. So we can choose to sort of use the determination that they have in there. I guess there's like 3 choices we have. We have to pick the default, which I think is a 15 to 20. The alternative, which would be our whatever we want to set, and then I think we can also delete the provision from policy if we wanted to, but that seems kind of crazy. So in any case, read that one as well, and we can talk about that next time. And John, you might want to have for that discussion maybe, or if you have information now, just about what your thoughts are on where that should be set, if it should be lowered or raised or kept the same or anything.
Just in a cursory glance of looking at other school districts, it's pretty over the board, pretty all over the board, no pun intended. Anywhere from like District 70 has it as 15 to 20%, District 50 at 25%, Gurney 56 at 33%, Antioch at 40%. So, and then there's one, Lake Villa, that doesn't have a percent referenced at all. And I just, thanks to our new school board policies online, was able to pull up our current policy. And it followed the route of Lake Villa and not having a specific amount set by policy. It's generally just assigned as you see labeled there, basically saying be good stewards and determine a value without holding a percentage.
Yeah, we got that 25% from one of our audits when we were going through the audits,
that's right.
and that was the recommendation of our auditor about where we should be as to be a healthy district financially, so that we're not playing coming May and we start running low on funds, trying to think about how we're going to make payroll. So that was where we I think it was shortly after we got on the board, Steve, when we started talking with the auditor, and we brought in, and it was the auditor's recommendation in one of her audits that we should be at the 25%, 25 to 30% range. So that's why we've been working with that range.
I was about to say that would 25, in terms of comfort level, 25% would be the lower end of what I think you should shoot for if you were going to set a percentage for that very reason. Even if you look at the financial profile on state reports like our annual financial report, there's even sections of the annual financial report that says really you should have cash on hand of 180 days, which is basically you have to have half the school year, half of a full year instead of the school year, cash on hand to be considered a really stable school district. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to make an argument that we need to have 6 months cash on hand, but really getting below 25%, you're starting to see negative review. It starts to really hurt your rating.
Right, and it did help us get through by trying to maintain that 25%. It helped us get through the shortfall, and when the school was, or when the state was prorating the amount of state aid we were getting down to, I think we got down to 88% of percentage of state aid we were supposed to get. So by kind of had built up those revenues, so kind of our savings plan, that we were able to dip into those in the meantime in order to get through the rough period that we had with the state aid coming through. Yeah. So, again, there's a value to having a little bit of money in the bank for, things happen.
So it doesn't appear to me that press is particularly advocating for a 15 to 20% fund balance. If from what I'm understanding is that they have, that they're recommending the addition into our policy of showing that ratio, right? Because our current policy doesn't have anything at all. We've been operating with the assumption that we want 25 to 30%, but it wasn't written into policy. So unless the board wants to change that ratio, it could be just a simple addition of putting, you know, of inserting what our ratio is into the policy, because I think
Right.
that's what
We
press
would
is.
just change 15 to 20% to whatever percentage we put in.
Exactly. So we just didn't have that before, and the attorneys at press are saying you probably want to have something in your board policy.
This policy seems to me to be almost a declaration of our value around this particular financial issue, and
Mhm.
as such, right, if we're gonna say we think 25 to 30 is what we seek to maintain, maybe we should talk about, I mean, that's obviously, there's nothing that's gonna preclude us from going below it.
Right.
But maybe we should also say that, you know, if our fund balance is 15%, we consider it to be something that precipitates an action on our part, or something like that.
Like we'd have to develop some sort of 5-year plan to get us back into or target or something.
Just
like that.
spitballing here, but
Mhm.
I mean, this is obviously a policy that just is declarative of some sort of value we have.
I think that's
And
right.
as such, we should probably talk about what happens when that gets lowered.
Yeah. I mean, I would, yeah, and in that context, I would, if we did anything, I would say we make the range 25 to 30, just to be on the safe side, you know, or at least, I mean, it's a target, like you said, it's not a, you can go below that, but.
That seems in line with some of the guidance I've been reading up on, just in terms of like government fund balances in general, and it gave anything from like 15 to 30% or whatever, but a lot of it was more of, it didn't dictate where you should be, but more of guidance on, depending on your risk, maybe not aversion, but assessment of risk for your district. So in one of them they listed was the, what kind of diversity do you have in your revenues? So for us, we're not extremely revenue diverse.
Right.
So for us, the risk is higher, so therefore you would build up a little bit more of your fund to compensate for that.
Well, it's that risk as well as the instability of funding from the state.
Correct.
So those are two big factors for sure. Yeah.
Or like, not to mention what a property tax freeze would do to our revenues.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So for those watching at home that watched earlier, please make note of this last 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you.
You broke the fourth wall.
It's like The Office. So, I mean, I guess maybe the recommendation would be for us to do 25 to 30% if we state anything. So we could discuss and vote on that next time if that's what everyone would like to do.
Okay.
Can we go back to that other one?
I actually have a question before you do.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, does that mean we would post a revised policy for public to review?
I don't think we're required, are we required to post it for public review? Do we have a policy?
When it comes back next meeting, I will
Yeah.
have it changed on there.
And then we
So-
discuss and vote there.
Right,
Yeah.
that's when we discuss and vote.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this was to look, this was just
Right.
the first look, so now we've
Okay.
made changes, now in the next one, the changes will be shown on the.
Okay.
So, in some ways, I feel like it's if there's 50 people who all want to be expressed, it's what we signed up for. I don't think it happens very often, and I'm just worried about the optics of sort of reserving the right to cut people off at a time when people are feeling like they need to talk to us. So,
Yeah, I mean, we've
you know?
encountered that a little bit in the past, and
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, this is a meeting that's held in public, but it's not a public meeting, right? So, I mean, I don't think, we've never regularly cut people off, but there have been times where we've had a lot of people that would come in and make comments at various points. And just because of, like it mentions in the suggested policy, just in the interest of getting the most people to the mic that we can, we try to limit it. I mean, because you know.
I get limiting the time if you've got a lot of people. I'm talking about saying, okay, at half an hour, sorry. I mean,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
well, that's a minimum.
I think what we've
so.
done in the past too is once it starts to become repetitive and there's no new discussion or topics being added to it, then, you know, we kind of acknowledge that it sounds like we were hearing the same thing. You know, we're gonna start cutting it off, and so we can get back on with the public business.
Yeah.
Typically, I can only think of, and so you've been here a long time, I can only think of 1 or 2 meetings before we got on the board where they had a long line of people talking.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it doesn't have to come down to that again, but
rare,
yeah, it's very rare, but that would have to, I don't think it would be a general rule that we'd be starting to cut people off unless we really needed to.
I mean, we never have.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Right, they have the right to voice their opinion, and we want to be able to make sure they have that ability to do so. But we also need to be able to get back onto the public work that we have to do. You know, we're not getting paid to sit here at all, so we have lives that we have to do as well, and we got to try and get through this as well.
If you take this to its illogical conclusion, not having this policy could really, I mean, it could allow our meetings to be filibustered indefinitely, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's reasonable to have a policy like this. At this time, it seems optically not ideal.
Right.
Well, it's not. On the other hand, it's not a big shift from what we already have. We already have an individual time limit.
Right.
And the limits they're suggesting are minimums. So, I mean, if we had 100 people that wanted to speak for 3-4 minutes each, you know, I mean, we'd probably let them speak until they fell asleep. I mean, but that doesn't typically happen. So, and if we have a couple people here, they may each speak for 5 or 10 minutes, and we've never really.
Right. Never really cut them off either.
No, yeah, we just let them go.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we're giving the impression. I totally get the point about balance. Just want to make sure we're giving the impression that people are, you know, welcome to come and speak.
Yes. Any other discussions on the review of the policies? Okay, so next is topics for future agenda items.
I have a few. We're looking at an IAR presentation from Mr. Lewis.
IAR is the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, so it's the new state assessment formerly known as PARC, formerly known as ISAP, formerly known as IGAP. I can keep going if you want.
No, it's okay.
That's okay.
Any questions for Paul about that?
We did just get the Illinois Science Assessment results too, so if I can make that all work, because it's very limited data from the Illinois Science Assessment, I would like to add that because that just arrived.
What year was the science assessment result?
Yeah.
That's a great question. This year, we're proud to say it's from last school year. So this is good news.
Okay. Similar to what happened tonight when Paul presented a request for the Newsella materials, Heather Lorenzo will be bringing a request for purchase of updated creative curriculum materials for early childhood. So this is the curriculum that they do use in the early childhood program, but it really needs an update. So she'll be bringing information and a request for that purchase next
Similar
time.
to when we updated from Envisions to the newer version of Envisions. Happy with it, but it's just time for the refresh.
Discussion of IASB resolutions, I think. So by that time, we'll know what the resolutions are, and you can be discussing those to direct Jason for what happens at III, right? Mm-hmm. Second look, a motion to approve the board policies. And then, John, are we maybe going to have information about our truck fleet, so to speak? An update with our,
That would be a goal, yes.
that would be a goal.
An ambitious one?
Okay. Potentially at the next meeting. Okay, that's what I have.
Anybody else have anything that would like to add?
Is Stephanie doing something with us?
No, not public comment, we're not there yet.
Oh, we have a Stephanie.
yes.
So she's asked me a question.
I won't jump over you.
On the BPAC, the public charge.
So, she absolutely can. She's doing, she's sharing more information with our administrators coming up, and she can share information.
Does anyone else want that here? Busted, all of you.
More information about the public charge.
Yeah, I would be interested.
Okay, I'll ask her to do that, sure.
Has that been held up though in court?
I thought it went into effect yesterday.
I do not know.
Yesterday was the date that she was in.
Yeah, I thought it was blocked.
I thought it was blocked at the last minute.
Yeah, yeah, that's.
Guess we'll find out.
I guess Stephanie will tell us. She will.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be very interested.
Okay.
I'm specifically curious if the government can change the definition of public charge. Can they change other definitions too?
I don't think Stephanie will be able to answer that question for you.
Okay.
But if you'd like a little more information, well,
I didn't know if it came up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go do that. Let me just ask, is that something that the board would like?
Hmm?
Yes? Kind of a consensus on that? Okay.
Anybody else have anything to add to the future agenda items? And I know we have at least one person looking to do public comment. Can you at least read her name for us?
Yes, it's Stephanie. It's Stephanie.
I knew it was Stephanie, but I didn't know the last
I don't
name.
want to mispronounce your name.
You probably won't know it gets right. It's Arnold Cole.
All right, you get a mic.
Come on up.
I really don't want to use my pretty big voice. I don't think we'll need that.
Yeah,
It's for the recording.
It's fine. No problem. So I was going to relinquish my public comment. I was watching at home, and I saw Jason White, who my daughter has for teacher this year. Fantastic teacher. Let me back up by saying I've lived in the community for 19 years. I have a junior right now at Central, a freshman at Central, and a sixth grader with Jason White. And so when I watch, and I'm a teacher, been teaching for the better part of 22, 23 years, currently down a little bit south of here. And when I walked in the door, I was pretty upset because of the teacher, the funding and giving teachers, what they're asking in terms of pay. And then I sat down and I was watching, and I'm like, okay, I felt it kind of relaxed a little bit, and I was fine. And first I want to tell you thank you so much for advocating for parents and whoever community members that want to speak and have their turn. Totally appreciated. And I was going to relinquish my comment until I heard a comment from over here, looking toward the audience at home, almost mocking the audience. That's how I took it in terms of the fund, talking about the 20% fund, having that fund balance. And then I thought I need to speak because I thought that was extremely inappropriate. That said, I don't know who on the board are teachers. I don't know how long you've been on the board. I'm so bothered by the fact that people here could smile and shake and clap their hands and advocate for Meadowview School, which my kids didn't go to. Okay, so this isn't about Meadowview. But be so proud of that, but then turn around and tell teachers that they can't have those same teachers that brought up that great project. And plenty of teachers, again, I've gone the gamut with, I've had kids in the district since 2008, and I've had nothing but quality experiences, nothing but personalized type of experiences for my students. I have taken on a number of different hats in this district, PTO, being on PTO for my kids' elementary school, doing market day, all sorts of different hats, planning Halloween parties, helping out in the classrooms, and I am appalled that the people on this board are not willing to give the teachers a little bit extra that they're asking for. I took a look at the district's website in terms of what you offered to make working conditions better, and as a teacher, I have a practical understanding of all of those things that are listed as far as working conditions. However, those are conditions that make it better for our students, okay, when it comes down to it. And that's what we're here for. And that is why exactly, and I'm sure nobody here would turn down any kind of an increase in their pay Nobody here would say, oh, sure, I'll take less, no problem. So the fact that the board would turn around and tell these teachers that, and again, practical understanding of all the hours and time and summertime, after school time that is put into teaching, that you would turn around and pretty much stab our teachers in the back, not giving them something a little more that they're asking, so that they can have a little bit extra special time on their own personal time in the summers when they're not doing planning for our students in District 46. On the weekends, when they're not doing planning for our District 46 students. I am appalled. And I sure hope that you all do the right thing and that you don't mock the people watching at home and you don't mock our concerns for what we want for our students. It's ridiculous. So please, please, please do the right thing. Come to some kind of a middle ground, and not just about improving conditions in the classroom, because we know that's for the students when it comes down to it. Yes, it helps the teachers, no doubt. But when it comes down to it, it's for the students. So please, 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 if we want to retain these awesome experiences that Meadowview presented to us tonight, please do the right thing and give them a little bit extra that they're asking for. Because again, nobody on this board would turn down, would say, oh, no, I don't want it. You keep the money, company. I don't need any more for my family. I don't need any more to give to my family, give them experiences. So please do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay, is that the only one? Okay. All right, next we need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Mackey,
Aye.
Miller. Aye. Strack,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Braden.